Dude, you gotta check out the Sabu documentary. So do it. It's available now at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. While you're there, go ahead and sign up. Check out the director's commentary with Joe Clark, a shoot interview with Luke and Ali, and the whole damn show, me, RVD.
Are WWE using AI to generate their storylines? Why Sami Zayn lost the United States Championship? My review of an excellent AEW WrestleDream 2025 and more. I'm Luke Owen and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
I make videos for YouTube for a living, so do you know what I hear a lot about? AI. Whether it's in thumbnails, captions, or the AI slop that has made YouTube Shorts this bizarre corner of the internet filled with the most rotten of brain rot. So really it was only just a matter of time before there was a story in the WrestleTalk News about AI making its presence felt in pro wrestling. On Friday, WWE made headlines following a report from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, which wrote Cyrus Kawsari was hired last month as the new Senior Director of Creative Strategy. He was introduced to the creative staff by Paul Levesque. In introducing him, Levesque said that Kawsari would lead WWE's transition to AI-based storytelling and integrate AI into creative services like video and graphics. He said this shift is inevitable when it comes to creative in pro wrestling. He adds Kawsari said he would both manage AI storytelling and be a liaison to the White House as Levesque is taking on more duties in politics in some form. Meltzer goes on to say that WWE has a contract with Writer AI, a platform that has been fed WWE content to come up with new storylines, which one person close to the situation described as bad, including one where Bobby Lashley, who the AI tool thought was still with WWE, would get a new gimmick where he's obsessed with Japanese culture and history. Meltzer writes, the feeling is once the bugs are worked out that AI will begin to have a major impact on storyline direction. Naturally, this caused quite a stir amongst wrestling fans, from those who were super angry about it to those who will defend the company until their dying breath, to the more measured in the middle response that AI is useful for productivity but should not be used as a replacement for creative thinking. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer said the story was misinterpreted online and that this AI tool is being used for productivity, saying that WWE were really using it to find out things like, when were the last time these two people feuded? It's not writing storylines, it's a tool to help writers write storylines quicker. And like he wrote in the newsletter, it's being used in the video and graphics department, which isn't all that uncommon anymore. Now, with all due respect, Dave, you did right. Levesque said that Kawsari would lead WWE's transition to AI-based storytelling, which might be why aggregators and people reading the aggregation rather than the full news item itself might think you were saying that WWE were using AI to write storylines. Furthermore, you gave an example of one by Writer AI, and while Writer AI is not Cyrus Kawsari and you never said they were, I can see how people misinterpreted your story. And Fightful Select have backed up Meltzer's clarification, writing, there have actually been AI tools at the disposal of the creative team for years. However, it's mostly used as a glorified creative assistant to look up things like the last time two wrestlers had a match. One source familiar with the process said that it would be more of a not starting with a blank page approach rather than write the show for us. They add that those they spoke to in creative said that they only use the tool for a few minutes, and because they work such insane hours, are excited for AI to aid them in some of their tasks. Fightful writes, specifically we were told that AI is not replacing the creative team. And one top talent reached out to Fightful to say that they took exception to the idea that AI would replace writers in WWE. Last Friday's SmackDown also saw the latest challenger in Sami Zayn's United States Open Challenge, and after weekly bangers with the likes of Rey Fenix and Javon Evans, the gimmick has come to an end as Zayn lost the title to a returning Ilya Dragunov. It was an awesome match, but I was really surprised to see the Open Challenge series end so quickly, especially because it's really getting over with the crowds. But it seems like we can't blame AI for this one, as according to Body Slam's Patreon, sources indicate that Sami Zayn made the call to have Ilya Dragunov dethrone him for the United States Championship. Well, my sources tell me that you should head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk because you can watch the excellent Sabu documentary over there right now at the $6.50 tier. If you upgrade to the $11.50 tier, you can watch an exclusive shoot interview with the film's director Joe Clark and producer Rob Van Dam, conducted by myself and Ollie Davis, as well as an exclusive director's commentary track for all of us millennial nerds who miss DVD bonus features. And with all of that out of the way, it's now time for my review of AEW WrestleDream 2025, which had a kickoff show that saw the Death Riders beat Roderick Strong and the Conglomeration in a fun 8-man tag that got the crowd hot. Eddie Kingston and Hook beat the Frat House. This is not a good use of Eddie Kingston, if you ask me. And Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale beat Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. The pre-show was also supposed to have FTR vs Jet Speed, which it did, but AEW did that thing I've wanted a wrestling company to do for ages. It went over the pre-show into the main card. The idea of a pre-show is to convince people on the fence about buying the pay-per-view to buy the pay-per-view. This can be done through promo segments, hype videos, and interviews, but can also be done with wrestling. If you liked this quality wrestling, buy the pay-per-view because you'll see more quality wrestling. So the idea is you're enjoying the first few minutes of FTR and Jet Speed, so now you call up your cable provider, or however it is you order pay-per-views in 2025, to see the conclusion and get the rest of the show. Plus, it gave an awesome visual as FTR and Jet Speed brawled while the opening show fireworks went off. It created a rabid atmosphere amongst the crowd who were on fire for the rest of this great match. FTR got the win when Stoke hooked Mike Bailey's leg during a pin. The great action continued in something that doesn't happen a lot in AEW, a women's feud that culminates in a pay-per-view match that isn't based around a title, but just the bitterness they have towards each other. Jamie Hayter and Tekla's feud began before July's All In, but injuries to Hayter delayed the match until now, but I'd argue it was worth the wait. Tekla is so cool and is a great addition to the women's roster in AEW, and this felt like the Hayter that we've been missing since she returned in her Daphne Blake era. Hayter hit the Haterade to get the win and celebrated with Queen Aminata, while the other 2/3 of the Triangle of Madness watched from the stage, signaling that this isn't over and will continue in blood and guts. Looking at the online reaction for the show, the consensus appears to be that the Young Bucks vs Jurassic Express was the match of the night, which is fairly understandable. They went for over 20 minutes and it was non-stop from the get-go, and these four men have insane chemistry together. There was perhaps one too many kick-out near falls for my taste, but this was an exceptional tag team match. Jurassic Express got the win, earning themselves a cool $500,000, which continues the Bucks' downward spiral. They even had a joke at the start of the match where the Bucks were so broke their account was declined for an entrance, and this fall to the bottom is likely what will get them back with Kenny Omega, who ran down for the save as the Don Callis family attacked Jurassic Express after the match. Omega pleaded with the Bucks to join his side, but they were too dejected and sad in their loss and lack of money. Earning themselves a shot at the Trios Championships this Wednesday on Dynamite, the Hurt Syndicate beat the Demand in a decent tornado tag. Not too much to write home about this one, I actually prefer the hardcore match they had on Dynamite, but the finish was really cool. It came down to Ricochet being the only man standing for his team against all three members of the Hurt Syndicate, which is not a great place to be if you're Ricochet, and his face showed that, so Bishop Khan pulled him out of the ring and took his place to fight valiantly before falling to a Lashley spear. It made Bishop Khan look awesome, and the best thing you can say about this feud is that it has made GOA feel like a huge part of the AEW tag team scene. Look, I really liked Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. You could even say it was a banger. I just don't think it needed to go nearly 25 minutes. The work was great because both men are great and they did a great job in making me feel that Mark was going to get the big win, so that's great, but I also feel it just went longer than was necessary. Fletcher won with a corner brainbuster and Mark was consoled by his teammates afterwards. What I could have done a lot more of, on the other hand, though, was Chris Statlander defending the Women's World Championship against Toni Storm. This had a lot of expectations set against it, and I'd argue it exceeded those expectations. Both women worked together brilliantly, and I loved the finish. Statlander had Storm in an armbar, but Storm just wouldn't tap out, so Chris picked her up and destroyed her with Saturday Night Fever. A great match that also did a lot to establish Statlander as the top of this division. And speaking of being at the top, Ultimo Monet came out to celebrate with her TBS championship, upstaging Chris Statlander and laying out an open challenge for any champion in the back. This brought out Mina Shirakawa, who is the interim ROH Women's TV champion, or at least was, until Monet won the belt from her in another match that I felt went longer than it needed to. Like the Briscoe match, they did make me buy into the idea that Mina might win, so that's a big tick in the win column, but I think you could have achieved the same thing with about 6 minutes shaved off. And if that extra belt wasn't enough for Monet, she also won the That's It Back to Winnipeg Women's Championship from Jody Threat at their Rumble in the Butt show yesterday. And she could add more to her collection as Statlander stole Monet's spotlight after the match, and Monet cut a promo on Statlander later, signaling that she's coming for the Women's World Championship once again. Brodido versus Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita of the Don Callis family was simply a bonkers match. There are way too many highlights to cover, but it's worth mentioning one in particular, as I never thought I'd be sat here writing out these words in a WrestleTalk news script. Kazuchika Okada did the Macarena while flipping the bird. Okada accidentally hit Takeshita with the Rainmaker, but it seemed like he minded it too much, though he probably should have done, as it led to him being double-teamed by Brodido. Just like on Dynamite, Bandito couldn't hit the 21-plex because of his bad wing, but Brody bigged him up with a keep fighting mantra, and that got him all fired up to hit a one-arm 21-plex to pin Okada and retain the tag titles. A superb finish to a superb match. While I understand everyone's raving about the Bucks and Jurassic Express, I personally thought this one was better. On a night of Match of the Year contenders, this was yet another one. Renee spoke with Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa backstage, and while they have both lost everything, they still have each other. Fightful Select report that they will be teaming together for the Women's Tag Team Championships, the brackets for which will be announced this week on Dynamite. Hangman Adam Page and Samoa Joe had a great Hoss-type Pokemon-style world title match that some might describe as a slobber knocker, because these two battered the absolute piss out of each other, and I got myself fired up when Page himself got fired up and shouted, "Let's go, mother fluffer!" I mean, obviously he didn't say fluffer, he said something else. Page hit 3 consecutive buckshots to get the win and proved that he is the man around here and is worthy of being the champion of the world. So in the post-match, the Ops turned heel by laying him out, and Joe gave Page the muscle buster onto the title. I don't know how I feel about the Ops turning heel. Look, I'm all for Joe and Page continuing this feud because it's awesome. I'm just not sure how much the AEW audience is going to boo a group with Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata in it. They're too cool and not in a Grandmaster Sexay way. And with them defending their Trios Championships this Wednesday against the Hurt Syndicate, I am expecting to see a title switch with some Page shenanigans, which would mean their first match as heels will see them lose the belts. With that said, this was a cool angle and one that I did not see coming. And the main event, as it should have been, was the I Quit match between Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. Given the things that these two have done to each other since Forbidden Door, including but not limited to teasing a Molotov cocktail, they had a big hill to climb in terms of expectations for this blow-off. And in the end, it was fairly tame. Like, I get it, Darby took a beating and they did gross stuff with fingernails and that thing with the cattle prod, but the big spot of the match, Claudio launching Darby from the ring through the announcer's table notwithstanding, was the Death Riders attempting to drown Darby Allin in a fish tank. I really enjoyed the cage match of Forbidden Door. I really enjoyed the coffin match at All Out, but I guess this is where I get off the train. I'm not clutching my pearls like Sarah Stock is on Twitter and shout, "Won't somebody think of the children?" I just think it's all a bit too silly. This isn't cool like Hangman and Swerve in their brutal matches. This is just, I don't know, silly, I guess. He tried to drown him in a small fish tank. And the thing that solidifies the silliness for me is that the bit of the match that got the loudest reaction was the return of Sting. It's a good lesson for wrestling that you don't always need to do mad hardcore spots when you can do something as simple as have an old man in face paint with a baseball bat show up. Darby's comeback following Old Man Sting was great, and he forced Mox to say "I quit" while he was in the Scorpion Deathlock, supposedly in the glass shards from the fish tank, but that didn't quite translate to the screen. Some have called the finish anticlimactic, and I can see why. But overall, while I had some quibbles with the length, giggity, I will not complain about the girth, giggity. The overall quality of WrestleDream was insanely high. AEW's had a great 2025, and it's a testament to the strength of the roster that they're doing this without Ospreay, Swerve, Jay White, and Bryan Danielson. Now head on over to Patreon to check out that Sabu documentary and click the video on screen right now to watch the latest episode of the WrestleTalk podcast, where Ollie and I talk about the big creative changes within WWE following Seth Rollins' unfortunate injury.